Thank you very much. So I would start actually with one of the final considerations that we were seeing in the slides. These three elements that we identified as particularly relevant for building long-term brand equity: trust, innovation, and customer centricity. As AI continue to reshape industry, how do you think it will impact these three dimensions? Naveen, if you want to start.
Yeah, no, I think this is a very interesting question in a strange times that we live in. I feel that AI is going to definitely shift brand equity in a way that it will not really look at what brands are saying, but it will be more about how brands are behaving at scale. So that's one part of it. Because I feel in some sense transparency would be important, and transparency would be a signal, but behavior is going to be the proof that is really required. So one invites trust, but the other is really something that you earn in some sense. So AI governance is going to be a lot more important thing that we'll all need to do, and it's going to become a leadership and a business decision in some sense. And we'll need to inject or embed AI right from the strategy point of view, right from the operation workflow point of view, to talent model itself. And it needs to be done right in the beginning and not as an afterthought, or maybe for a compliance reason or something like that. And that's the only way you can build trust. And when you look at innovation, I think innovation is also going to change. It's not going to be only about creating new features or product innovation, but it's going to be really about how do you orchestrate an entire experience in a way that it keeps in mind the human context, it keeps in mind the authenticity, it keeps in mind cultural nuances in some sense. And from a customer centricity perspective, I feel that we are moving towards from segments to an audience of one because of hyper personalization that's going to come in, and from campaigns to it will be moving on to something like what does this person need right now in the moment. So being context aware and making sure that you are able to scale it in the right way. I think these are going to be some of the things that will. I'll give you an example from sports. Infosys does a lot of work in sports in the space of tennis, and sports is one area where trust, in some sense, plays out in real time. So we did this AI automated commentary for Tennis Australia for the Australian Open, and what it does is it takes raw data from the match feed that is coming in, from player data and ball tracking data, and it converts that into a real-time storytelling at scale mechanism. And this used to be done by lots of senior editors for a long period of time, but now it's completely automated. It happens instantly, it happens in a consistent manner. But when we had proposed this idea, there was a lot of skepticism in terms of will fans really relate to an automated commentary? Will the insights be accurate? But I think over a period of time we've seen that perception has changed, not because of technology, but the way it has been deployed responsibly. And that goes on to show that in some sense AI can be trusted, built through trust, if it can actually enhance human understanding rather than replacing it. So I thought it was a good example to show that if you do it properly in the right way and do it consistently, it builds trust in some sense, and that's where AI is going to really make a difference.
Yeah. I was gonna press on the personalization part. I'm not a brand or marketing expert, but when I think about trust and I think about brand equity, I often come back to like, what's the utility and value that the service, this product, this brand is offering me in this moment. Even in that example, that automated translation, everything, if it's getting it right, it's providing me value. If it gets it wrong, all of a sudden you break that trust. So it's not actually, it's almost technology agnostic, because no matter what happens there, you could break that trust or build that trust. I think AI offers an opportunity to scale more efficiently, to build trust in different ways, build understanding around brands in different ways faster. And then on the personalization part, we're going to get into a world where these systems are able to understand you and your context so much better in that moment. And I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic from a trust perspective, because I think you might get to a world where you trust your AI assistant or agent more than you trust anything else. And brands are going to have their own AI systems, and they're going to be interacting, and you're going to live in this multi-agent world where you have both the enterprises and the individuals have agents that are filtering things for you and working out who to trust and who not to trust. And then you're also interpreting that data and working out on trust. So it's going to play a big role, but I do still think the arc has to come back to utility. Does it actually provide value to me in any way? And it can very easily lose that trust if it doesn't provide that utility. AI is not going to be a silver bullet in that way.
Nice, thank you. And talking about AI initiative, especially for enterprise, a lot of them have sort of remained at pilot stage, constraining growth to a certain extent compared to what was thought potentially at the beginning. Do you expect a shift towards scale deployment over the next 12 to 18 months?
No, 100%. If that's not the case, we are in trouble. Yeah. We are an IT services firm, so I think no, 100%. I'll give you, like we were in Davos last month, and for the last 2 years, we've been doing an AI masterclass for our clients there. And we have seen a tremendous shift in terms of the kind of conversations that were happening just 2 years back to the kind of conversation that we had this year. There is a huge maturity in terms of the kind of conversations that we are seeing. And I'm fairly confident, and I'll tell you the reasons. There are 4 or 5 reasons in terms of why something like this is happening. 70% of the CEOs believe that AI adoption in their enterprise is their responsibility. So it's coming right from the top. The second thing is, I think the speed at which AI is moving is so fast that the gap between enterprise value generation and the speed at which AI is moving, it's like 1 billion users right now. The deployment gap is so huge that for people like us, it's a golden opportunity to actually fix that gap. The third I would say is that this is AI transformation is not a lift and shift job. It's actually, you have to actually, it's a root and branch kind of surgery that's going to happen. Everything is going to change. It's not just about technology implementation. There is people management, there is business process changes, there is operational changes that needs to happen. So it's not as easy as it seems that you put in a product and everything is going to transform. If you look at the last in 1 year, the number of fraud cases and the number of security breaches that have happened in a year, there are close to about 200 plus happening in large enterprises. So the security lapses are so huge that you have to get into it. Modernization is going to become a lot more important because 60 to 70% of most of the tech that large enterprises spend is on maintenance, and 30% would be on new innovation. You have to flip that model, because if you don't flip that model, you can't compete with the AI native organizations. And then now we've seen in one of the studies that we've seen, close to about 50% of enterprise budgets is on AI projects right now. And there'll be partnerships that's going to be happening all around. IT players would need to work with frontier models. So recently we announced a partnership with Anthropic, which is really to take the frontier model and put it into our IT platform. So we understand the client context, we understand their technology landscape, but you bring in the right kind of model and integrate the whole thing. So for us, I think this is a great opportunity, and the conversations related to enterprise AI is definitely moving in the right direction.
How do you see it?
I'll add 2 things. One, I think to the point of maturing, the products and services and the AI systems themselves are maturing at such a rapid pace. Almost every week there's a new discovery. So the advancement is so rapid. But one of the things that is rapidly advancing too is the accuracy and the reliability. And I think for enterprises to really trust and use these systems, they need certain level of reliability and accuracy. I don't think we're that far from that. And I think as soon as you're able to match that or meet that, there are going to be all sorts of interesting avenues where that can be applied within businesses. Maybe starting with the lower risk areas and then increasing in areas where you can dynamically change your business. The other thing is, I would say the cost of producing the models, or at least serving the models, and the hardware, the cost of the hardware is rapidly decreasing. And those two things actually make it easier to deploy and serve at scale. And so I think the combination of those two things means I think we, in the next 12 to 18 months, see a lot more
There will be.
deployment.
Another question that I have actually, I was reading the news the other day, and Anthropic was on the news because of, they took sort of a step back on their, central pledge for the responsible scaling policy. But as AI capability expand, how do you think organization can demonstrate responsible leadership in deploying these technologies?
Yeah, there's many different things. First of all, I think it helps to be principled from the start. What are the sets of principles you're trying to adhere to? What are the sets of values that you're trying to adhere to? That certainly at large organization, allowing people to tune in onto specific principles and then adjust their work based on those principles helps disseminate messages. There are robust frameworks around safety and deployment, red teaming, testing your deployments thoroughly before they go out, monitoring them once they have gone out. There's a whole host of new safety standards around these AI systems that are being developed that people should and can adopt, and they can develop their own too. I think that is one huge part of being able to deploy at scale and responsibly. And there's also incredibly creative innovations and techniques that you can come up with yourself or partner with technologies companies to come up with. I'll give one example. One thing that Google does and developed from the very beginning in tandem and parallel with generative AI is a system called SynthID. And SynthID is a imperceivable watermark that goes across any text, image, video, audio generation. So anything a model produces from Google has this imperceivable watermark that if you take it back into our system or you go onto Gemini and plug it back in, it'll tell you if it was generated or not. And really what we'd like to see is everyone adopt a standard like this. Or that SynthID system is openly available to anyone to use. And those are the kinds of safety standards and systems that you can use to deploy safely and responsibly. I think there'll be many more kind of deployments, and probably corporations will develop them, and I think governments will also slowly start to develop these different standards.
Naveen?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with a lot of points that Rupert has said, but I think we have to look at technology, not to look at this as a technology decision, but as a business decision. Because I think it has an impact across the entire organization in some sense. So one of the things that we're doing is that our Responsible AI office has people from different functions. So there is a marketing person, there's a finance person, there is a business person, there's a technology person. So how do you really bring this entire group of people who have different kinds of knowledge, but with some kind of a shared responsibility around how do you look at something like this? It's also important to actually put down what are the values with which you're going to govern some of these things, and what are the values that you won't compromise in some sense, like ethics. It has to be inclusive, it had right kind of fairness. So you have to also put down the values that you won't compromise in your system. And like I said earlier, you have to begin right in the beginning and put a framework which is responsible in nature, which has the right kind of structure and framework. So we have something called as 3S framework, which is nothing but it's scanning the market, how do you shield the market from putting the right kind of guardrails, and then steer, which is more around putting this office which will continue to look at regulations that are upcoming. So all of this are important, like certifications is important. Our Responsible AI toolkit is open sourced, so it's important to share with others and learn from each other. So I think that's the way we can all be responsible around it.
Talking about marketing instead, Naveen, I'll continue with you. Where are you seeing tangible, measurable, ROI from AI in marketing today? And is it just, short-term efficiency gains, so you can see more strategic application?
Yeah, I think if you ask any marketer right now, I think the one track that they say is efficiency is where they are seeing the maximum amount of gain. But I feel that efficiency is the floor, and probably effectiveness is the ceiling in some sense. In most organizations, you're seeing close to about 15 to 30% efficiency gains in content creation, in video production, marketing ops, campaign management. So efficiency is now table stakes. Everything that people are experimenting a lot. There are lots of use cases related to efficiency. But the other two pillars that we are really working on is the experience pillar, which is how do you reimagine the current way that you're doing things and do it in a completely different manner. And I'll give you an example here. We work with an organization called Handelsblatt, which is a media firm, a financial media firm in Germany. And they had come to us with a business problem, which was more about they produce these large reports every year. These are research reports which goes into 200, 300 pages, and they produce it in a PDF format every year. How do you actually reimagine this document using AI for their, and they had no idea in terms of how many people are reading it, what exactly is the engagement level. They had absolutely no idea about that, and they've been doing this for 20 years plus. We actually went back to them. We actually sat down with them, had a brainstorming discussion, did a design thinking workshop with them. We've now built a solution for them, which is one, actually how do you digitize this entire thing, this document. You can now actually ask that document any question, so you can summarize it, you can translate it into multiple languages, you can listen to it. But the other interesting thing that we have done is we've actually connected the input parameters of that research report in a way that you don't have to keep doing the research year on year. Your input parameters are connected, and your graphs and all the other parameters keep, so it's almost like a live document that you've created which keeps updating year on year. So your research is like updated any point in time. You're not talking about like, okay, I did this in March of 31st, 2025, that's the data that I have. But no, it keeps updating, and now they want to do this for all of their reports that they have. So this is a way in which AI has come and completely transformed the way you have experienced something which was a PDF document to something else. So that's one example that we have. We've done multiple such things in other organizations. With Ralph Lauren, which is another client of ours, we've created something like Ask Ralph, which is how do you style yourself by having a conversation with the app, and you get the best of advice from years and years of styling data that is there in their database. How do you have a conversation, how do you look at different styles, and this is something that is really driving a huge amount of engagement for them. So I think the experience pillar is where there is a lot of potential and there's a lot of action happening. The third pillar is effectiveness, which is more around how do you generate outcomes from marketing data. That's still work in progress. We'll be launching the new website of Infosys in 2 weeks' time. And the entire website is going to be just prompt-led. There are no drop downs or anything like that. You can have a conversation with it. You can actually talk to the website and get all the information. So we're trying out a lot of things. There are some areas where we are seeing a lot of success. We also have to make sure that there is the right kind of guardrails that we have built around some of these marketing experimentation. But I think marketing is definitely going to transform in a big way with AI.
Rupa?
I like the efficiency, effectiveness kind of like frontier that you're talking about there. I think certainly, again, not as a marketing expert, but I could imagine a lot of the tools out there right now hit on efficiency a lot. There's a lot of ways you can iterate and prototype ideas quite quickly. And I think there's a lot of efficiency gains to be found there, which I can imagine marketeers are using a lot. I do think there are some strategic frontiers where maybe we're just dipping our toes in there, and that's more along the, and that's probably close to the effectiveness and experience angles that Naveen was talking about there. And I'll come back to the kind of point around personalization. The more these systems are able to understand your context and information about you, the better they're able to serve you, more effective they're going to be able to serve you. One good example is, it's a bit quirky and fun, but Google now have this thing where if you go shopping, you can try on clothes on your phone while you're shopping. So you can take a photo of yourself, but now it's highly personalized to like trying on these clothes. I think that's I saw a prototype the other day that was wild, where anything, trying on all sorts of different things on your phone. So I think that hyper personalization is going to become a real opportunity. for creative marketers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Please, David.
Of course you do.
Yeah, it wouldn't be one of our events if I didn't have a question.
It wouldn't be a brand exchange.
Okay, you haven't really addressed the question that I wanted answered.
Which is the one that
Oh, is that the next one question? Okay, go on, carry on.
I don't know. I don't know.
You're jumping
Is
ahead.
it about jobs?
No, not exactly.
You just
okay,
answered.
let me just
How about that?
I'll quote you, right. The definition of marketing is it's the strategic process of identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customer needs profitably. Now, some people argue that isn't really a definition of marketing, but I think it's a pretty good one. Quite complicated, quite intellectual, if it's done right. And therefore, you need a high standard of marketeer to be able to do all that. In my opinion, the marketing profession has been downgraded over the years to be just the blokes who brief the agency, and the agencies have become overweening giants that throw their weight around. There have been various technological developments that have dramatically changed the way marketing works. One of which was the radio, another one was TV, and then along came the internet, and so on, and streaming and Wi-Fi. Those technological changes have changed things dramatically, but they don't seem to have changed the relationship between marketing people and their agencies. Now, the thing that you hear everywhere and you see in the share prices is that the agencies think their days are numbered, that they are no longer necessary. And to me, that seems like the right analysis, that actually CMOs will have to become much, much more technologically capable, do that thing that I just described, and be pulling more strings. The agencies will decline in relevance, and they'll be pulling on much more technological, targeted and God knows what stuff in order to achieve that objective. So this upgrades CMOs and downgrades agencies. What do you think?
I think we are already there. I don't think it's something that it's debatable at all. I think the CMOs are going to become the orchestrators within organizations. I'll give you my own role. I do marketing. That's my primary role. But I also look after UK country operations for Infosys, which is a business role. I also look after corporate social responsibility, which is the third role that I have. And for all of these things, you are getting so much of inputs through all kind of interaction that you're doing, that in the current age, probably the CMO has the right kind of insights to go and actually guide the board in the right direction, I feel. It is not about just creating the campaigns, it's really about sitting down and looking at which direction we need to go, because we are holding the data, we are holding the insights that's coming to us from all kinds of channels that we're doing. So more and more, I think what we're seeing is CMOs are going to become the orchestrators in large organizations. It's going to be the chief orchestrator officer or something like that.
I agree with the orchestration point. I think in general, what we're trending towards is more orchestration and direction from those in charge, or even the teams. We might find a new way of working in small teams where you orchestrate and charge and directing what gets done, but you're not actually needing to do all the doing. I don't know why the agencies have the strength that they do. Maybe it's because they're able to operate at volume and scale, and maybe AI changes that a little bit in terms of efficiencies that you can create and scale and iteration and prototyping. I still think there's going to be value from, it's one thing to have AI systems that can help you iterate and create and develop, but I guess there's another question around how do you think carefully about what you want to achieve, how you want to direct a system. And I do think that there could be really strong agencies that help partner with companies to do that. Maybe they're not the behemoths that they are now. Maybe they're more specialized, like you were saying, that maybe they specialize and target in certain ways and they build their own strengths. But I still think that there will be a combination of those in existence. I mean, I even see some good examples now. I know someone that works in video advertising, and they've been really successful using generative media to prototype how they want videos to start, because they're trying to get people to stay for longer than 8 seconds, because they've worked out that if you can stay for longer than 8 seconds, we'll keep you on the video. And so now they prototype a huge amount of generative ideas. They test that out, and then they choose the ones that are good. They're an agency, and they've come up with this, and now they partner with brands. So there are creative solutions that will come from outside of the brand owners. I still think that's true.
Yeah, I'll give you another point. Like we used to work with close to about 40-45 agencies. Now we work with 8 agencies. That's the kind of thing, and we have built an internal agency which does a lot of our work with the tools that we develop. And in some sense, we are also competing with agencies now. We compete with WPP, we compete with a lot of other agencies now, because we've built our own marketing value framework. So we have on the front end side, in terms of how do you look at user experience and design. So we have an agency in-house which does that thing. We have some people who do the entire commerce bit of things, and then we have the operations side of things, marketing operations. And so we used to service a lot of our clients where we used to do pocket things, small things related to marketing. But now we've built the entire engine together, so we go out to the client to say that we will take over your entire marketing operations, including automating your entire thing and show you efficiency thing. So we are in some sense competing with agencies also now.
Please.
Yeah, Tom.
What you're saying,
Sorry.
this looks like the role of agency will stay. It will just shift from the typical agency, like it shifted from those people who were managing the newspaper print, and then it went to the agencies that were brilliant at advertising. Now it will move to the new type of a new era of agencies which are very good at AI. And as the AI models are not as abundant as channels and other things, we probably will see a huge consolidation. But I think that agencies will be just more powerful if there will be just fewer of them. From what you are saying, and however, it doesn't address the question that I think David wanted to ask, which is who is going to do the strategic thinking? Because from what you're describing, everything you talk about is more engagement and deployment of marketing strategies or communication rather than strategic decisions. And strategic marketing is where marketing is.
Sorry, there is a rider to all of this. That the number of CMOs that are equipped for that new role, without being too rude, is actually relatively limited, because a vast number of CMOs have come up through the communications route where their primary job is just giving a brief to the agency and let them do it all. What's now going to happen is it's going to come back to home to roost, and they are going to have to be the ones directing it, which means I think the nature of CMOs is going to change quite fast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's happening in some industries much faster, especially in our industry it's happening much faster because you are getting the pulse. It's not happening in some of the other industries. We did a panel discussion with lots of CMOs, so you could see the difference in terms of what the roles are in certain organizations of CMOs and what some other CMOs are doing. So there is still a huge gap, but I think that gap is going to shrink with AI.
We're talking about the role of agencies. I'm just also interested in the role of brands, on building strong brands in this kind of area. Because David was talking about radio, TV, internet, etc. When e-commerce, or when the internet came in, branding was disrupted a little bit because you had, Amazon putting kind of unbranded products out there. But as long as they got enough reviews, people would still buy them. People were relying on online reviews more than branding, and branding got disrupted a bit in that process. But with AI and this hyper-personalization and vast amounts of content being generated, my hypothesis anyway is that people will start to gravitate back towards known and trusted brands because they're going to just be bombarded with like loads of slop or whatever you want to call it. And then if you project even further forward to your world where we've all got our own agents dealing with the agents from the corporate, firstly, will that disrupt the need for strategic marketing? Because your agent will just tell the other agent what you want and what you need, and it will know you so well, you don't have to worry about it. But again, it will have to filter all of this stuff through, well, which brands can I actually trust on behalf of my
Exactly.
whoever I'm serving.
I totally agree with the brand point. I think there's going to be lasting brands have a huge role to play, but that doesn't mean they have to be all the old incumbent brands. Their new brands also can be built. And this is why I was also talking about the utility and value add that brands can create or companies can create, and you can build brands around that. Some of them will be older brands, and there will be some newer brands. I think in the hyper-personalized world, part of the decision making will be down to brand and do I trust this? And I think your assistant, your agent will learn more about what you prefer, your preferences, almost like your brand score index there. There's a whole bunch of variables of how you're judging a company and a brand. There's going to be some version of that for an individual. What do I trust and and maybe I want to be creative and try something different. So I'll try this one, but I'll go on reviews, or something like that. So I do think there is a world where these things happen together. And I do still think brands play a huge role in that.
Yeah, my view, Mike, is that I don't think the fundamentals of branding are going to change in some sense. Like, great brands will continue to do good work, and AI is going to only amplify that thing. AI is not going to disrupt that thing. Means if you look at strong, enduring brands, trusted brands that have been there, they've always got certain things right. Like their promise would be right in terms of how do you promise, what's your brand promise in some sense, and that gives you consistency. Do you have a meaningful purpose behind your brand, and that gives you credibility? Is your brand performing well in some sense, and that gives you assurance in some other way. So I think strong, enduring brands have always done the right thing. So whether you're a new brand, whether you are an AI native brand, or whether you're a legacy brand, I think if your fundamentals related to brand are right, AI is only going to help you to be better. I don't think it's going to disrupt the fundamentals. That's my view. Like you have to be good with your fundamentals of brand.
I was going to say, it kind of builds on the questions and the things that are there around hyper-personalization, orchestration, etc. In a world where there's multiple AI platforms, do we not get to a world where there is marketing, rather than it being individual, we are marketing at other AI platforms?
Yes.
Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, I see a world like that in the future where you optimize your content and your products and services to be digestible and understandable through platforms and systems that are going to come looking at them. One interesting thought experiment is how much will humans browse the web like we do today? How much will you go and like type in a website when you might have a voice conversation with an assistant? It'll go browse the web for you and come back with a whole bunch of information, or might even create a website for you based on everything it found. And in that world, your brand website, your web on the website, doesn't have to be for humans. It needs to be readable and legible and accessible for your AI systems. So that's an example of what I think could start to happen.
Don't you end up like that sort of social media echo chamber where it's just fueling what it thinks of my opinion? Isn't there a real danger in that, and isn't there a need for serendipity or something that breaks that model in some way, which comes back to this point about utility and insight and purpose?
I think there is.
Things that might cut through that.
I think, I mean, there's ways to get this wrong and there's ways to get it right, and there are ways to actually build in creativity into the design or exploration into the design. So often you can actually build these agents to explore spaces that you didn't necessarily instruct them to, but what they might think is in the long tail of interests for you. Or something completely random. But you can also get into a world where, even now, with the systems today that are not as powerful as what we're talking about, you're able to judge like how sycophantic is something being, and how can you dial it down and dial it up, and can you get, and there's a lot of work being done on like really understanding that and drawing the right lines, so you don't get stuck into a world where it's just this echo chamber telling you how grand and great you are.
So, from everything that I have been reading, and you're confirming it to a degree, it looks like there is a high danger that instead of celebrating differentiation, enabling differentiation, where brands thrive, the world that is being built by AI is implying that there will be need for conformism and a very uniform application, because the AI filtering will not exactly celebrate differentiation to a degree, because it is impossible.
I don't agree.
Based on the AI that we have today, and I don't see any breakthrough in the future, very close, but AI mostly celebrates conformism and ticking boxes, because this is the best way it works at the moment, which triggers the response from the people natural to try and fit the expectation, which in turn makes the framework even narrower. So there is a degree of danger for celebrating conformism rather than celebrating differentiation. And what do you think would trigger the change that would call for differentiation?
See, my view is, how are you using AI? Are you using AI? Are you using AI to amplify what you have in your arsenal right now, or are you trying to use AI to just go with the flow of what all the others are doing? So I still feel that AI has to be used as a tool to amplify something that you were not able to do, and that's where the differentiation is going to come. How do you use that to create the right kind of differentiation, using things that are true to your brand, true to how you would have always differentiated, but use that as something to amplify what you have, rather than assuming that it's going to create something which is...
This is a bit idealistic. If we look at how the students are writing their essays, you can see that a lot of the essay style is really conforming to very much the expected style, and we're seeing a lot less individuality in creative writing, for example. And if you extrapolate that to other areas, you can see that the natural human response to fit in and win in the short term is compliant and conforming rather than standing out. I'm not saying that it's necessarily everyone doing it. What I'm saying is that I can see that this is the road that can be taken, and at scale it can be in the short term very profitable, except it will lock in everything. Like, the reason Amazon is winning at the moment is because it was the cheap short-term solution that killed many brands, because it's much easier to use Amazon.
Yeah. No, but like Amazon, there are other brands also who are winning by doing different things using AI. Just go and see this campaign by Lidl, which is this small supermarket chain in Germany, and how they have used AI to actually create a much bigger brand than what they're doing. So I think they've used AI in the right way to actually push up their brand numbers. So I think there will be winners and losers in the whole thing. How do you use...
Oh no, at the moment there are plenty of ways of using it. What I'm saying is that once we have agents deciding on behalf of everyone, and agents talk to agents, then this world is not going to be, to your point, exactly very...
I don't follow how you get. First of all, I think you're using very very immature technology right now. It's nowhere near as powerful to be able to perform what you're describing or what we're describing, right?
But
so the current system.
Trying to build.
Yeah. So if we're talking about what we're trying to build, I don't think you get into a system where the agents are all this monolithic one single agent determining like one conformist society and behavior. It's hyper personalized. It's way more connected to an individual and all the individual specifics of that individual. And so it's almost by definition the exact opposite of what you describe. It's the ultimate differentiation. Like every choice that gets put to me will be entirely different to the choice that gets put to you. That is completely different.
Thank you very much for. I see that we have a lot of other. I see that we have a lot of other questions. We can continue with the question, but possibly downstairs.
It's my role to say a few closing words. Well, it's very interesting and pleasing that this event has resulted in a speeding up of the level of discussion and interest, and I hope that will continue downstairs. All of that discussion really makes me think. Certainly when I think about our business, what I've heard about AI throws up all sorts of interesting possibilities. You know, we talked about sacking all the staff and not bothering with them and just having AI. But you know, I can think of quite a lot of different ways that we, as brand finance, might use AI. And one that was going through my mind was that one of the challenges with valuation is looking at what's going to happen over the next 10, 15 years, 5, 10, 15 years. And if you look at the forecasts that are generally put in by clients and by valuers, they're extremely simplistic, and they're not generally based on all the trend information and analysis you could do about what is going to happen to the economy, to the sector, to the competition. And if you had a piece of AI that could actually do improved forecasting, that would certainly make a very interesting difference to us, which I'd never really thought about till I sat there thinking about it. And you know, there are probably 4 or 5 things that the power of this technology could actually dramatically affect our business. Now, you know, obviously it affects your business, Naveen, because you know, they're worried about the fact that the things they do could be done by one of their own pieces of equipment. And Rupert, your company, you know, Google has got to be on the end of a bit of a threat, because it is probably the world's largest advertising vehicle. And if nobody needs to advertise on Google anymore because some agent goes and tells you the answer, you know, that's a threat to Google. So all major companies, I think, have got to think about it. I hope we get it right. It's on you, Lorenzo. You've got to work out the answer. But you know, I do think it's a tremendously interesting topic, and I hope you will all stay and come downstairs and have a drink. We will be drinking Mainbrace, our extremely successful rum brand, which was so successful that we failed to get any distribution for it. So we now have more than enough for everyone to get completely pissed every time they come here. And I hope you'll stay and have a few mojitos with us.
We need to get some AIs behind
So thanks all for coming, and I'd like to thank Naveen, actually, because as you see, it says in partnership with Infosys. He very kindly has sponsored the canapes and drinks. So eat your fill, and thank you very much.